Alright, hope everyone had a well-rested little break in between TS3 and TS2. And fortunately for these guys, the rain's eased off a bit, so that is a good thing. We got Aussie flashing slappers here. Oh, Mr. Slappers! I spy with my little eye. Can you see it as well, Spudley?
What am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking on the screen now. Oh, I do see that, DJ. What do we see here? I see a big wing on Slapper's mate 117, so that is a no-no. And if you use that in pre-qualifying, that unfortunately is going to be a DQ for Slapper's mate 117. I think that's a bit of controversy there.
Did you see it through pre-qualifying though? That's the thing.
I don't think I was really paying attention on that pre-qualifying, but if that's the same car that he used, I think he might need to. I think he may need to drop down.
Bit of controversy going on here, my friend. Unfortunately, that looks like is a bit of a DQ there, my friend.
We'll have to wait and see. So as we sort out things in the background between Slapper's mate 117, who's been a really good driver throughout the whole TS2 field, especially winning his race in Daytona, the Daytona 150. Unfortunately, it might become a little bit of a controversial figure in this Styrian sprint here this evening. But we've got It's Racing leading the pack on a flying lap. With an out lap rather, so they just started their qualifying. So It's Racing is about to lead the pack as we go. Let's see if we can go for an onboard with It's Racing. Let's just take a lap around here at the Red Bull Ring, also formerly known as the Austria Ring and the A1 Ring, until Red Bull bought it out in 2004, which we now know as Red Bull Racing Stadium. So stick around, put your volume up, and let's go right with It's Racing. Turn 10, It's Racing, the championship leader in the TS2 Championship, with It's Racing coming across the line. Once he's going to set himself the first lap, is 42.7, with Captain Muffer right behind, immediately smashing that time at 141.1. So a nice start there for Captain Muffer and John, 27 TCT. Oh, as we see, a little bit too deep there. And DJ, I do hear there's a bit of breaking news with the likes of Slapper's mate 117.
Yeah, coming live in from race control, he did use the big wing through pre-qualifying, so unfortunately for Slappers, that is a disqualification from pre-qualifying, so we'll have to drop to split 2, which then means we do move the next fastest person up into main split, and I do believe that was Shadow, if I do remember correctly.
Absolutely right. So we'll make sure these guys are about to get their qualifying finishing up, and we'll sort the grid out for them very shortly. But so far we have Captain Muffin on pole position, Vossi coming through in second place, with Rugworth, Budsy making it MSR top four, three cars from MSR in the top four, so that's good for me to see. And it's very nice to see Rugworth up there. He's not really favourable for these conditions, and unfortunately for him, he's up into third place. But we're really about to get ourselves less than 2 minutes to go in qualifying. But it is early days, DJ. Is the track getting any drier from outside?
Well, I'm sitting next to you, so I can't exactly see. But yeah, it looks like it's still really raining. I might just duck out of the comm box here and go for a bit of a walk down to pit lane and see if it's drying up. But yeah, it's definitely looking pretty wet from out here. So if you keep going for a little bit, I'll duck out for a minute or two and I'll run down into pit lane and see if it's as wet as it looks from up here.
Absolutely. So as we look through, we've got Vossi now taking provisional pole position with a 1 minute 40 flat. So he is coming through. He's liking these conditions, with Captain Muffin still holding on into second place. Rugworth third, Budsy fourth, Rusty in the top five, so that'll be crucial for him and for his chance to be promoting himself up into the top split as a reserve driver for Robo Sport Racing. But as we see drivers come through now, Robo Sport's come through, and Cylon 96 has come through to take provisional pole position. But Robo Sport and Lunacy have come through from out of nowhere, and they have promoted themselves up into first and second place, and Lunacy up into third. So top three has changed orders dramatically, with Vossi ahead of Devlin on the grid there, and we see Shadow GT coming in now. Yes, so he'll be starting from the rear of the field for race one after that instant disqualification that Slapper's mate 117 had. So Shadow will be joining in the rear of the field, but so far we've seen Cylon 96 and Robo Sport coming through first and second, but he's put a gap, Cylon, 1.4 seconds between him and Robbo?
Yeah, that's 1.4 seconds.
Huge. Absolutely.
The checkered flag dropping, so who's the first to catch it? It will be... It's racing, no? It's funny. Captain Muffin, so Captain Muffin, see if he can go faster. He does, 134.9.
Oh, so the track is drying up, so these guys, if they're on intermediate tyres, now is the perfect time. Rusty Nuts has improved his lap time as well, so very nice job there for Rusty Nuts to be up there. John 27 has moved up into provisional pole position. Bossy's moved up into third, and we see a few drivers coming up. Aussie Hypnotic Rugworth is in second place as well, so Griffo, Tony, the order is changing thick and fast as we get checkered flag for split 2 as well.
Yeah, that's incredible there. Those drivers really moved up and down, and Lunacy jumps up here into P2 with Xylon into P3, so the drivers really changed quite significantly as that track really dried up there. But the rain is patchy. It looks to be very patchy, but yeah, it was a bit wet for me, my liking, down in the pit lane. I am pretty drenched. I didn't take an umbrella because we can't use those in pit lane. I did take my raincoat though, but that's pretty wet, as you can see. You know, I'll shake it off, hang it up. But
absolutely, Silence moved him to third place now, so he actually improved. But Robert is, am I seeing this right? Robo Sport is on pole position, DJ. Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That
is literally come from out of nowhere, and for the Robo Sport Racing driver to be in pole position, his first pole position came through pre-qualifying, and he finds himself on the front row ahead of Lunacy, Cylon, and Budsy and John.
Yeah,
that is incredible. Wow, I did not see that. I was focused on trying to get these split 2 guys sorted out, but Robo Sport, take a bow, son. And you have got pole position for race 1 for the TS2 Touring Cars Championship for round 5 here at the Styrian Sprint, as we see Griffo Tony as well. So Griffo Tony's come through on a last minute lap there as well. So he's so now it's all chopping and changing. Now Griffo Tony has taken pole position.
Yeah, he did make it through.
Wow. Okay, so we did not see that.
Yeah, Muffin was the first person to take the checkered so he did make it through. So luckily he pulled a diswood from last week, so it's a bit lucky there for Griffo. Yeah, so we'll definitely wait and see how it goes.
Absolutely, and that is Griffo Tony on the front row ahead of Robbo Sport Racing, taking that pole position on the last lap. So they got the best of the conditions there, but we see that weather map, DJ. It is thick and cloudy, and it is raining outside. So these guys are whether they're on wet tyres or somewhere intermediates, but we know Griffo and Robbo in the front row. As those lights are about to go out, it is lights out, green flag racing. So a tentative start there for Griffo Tony, but that traction control is helping him out massively. Xylon 96 has lost a bit of ground there. Robbo Sport in that second phase has come through nicely, and he's going to move himself up into third place. We see Xylon and Griffo and a few contacts amongst drivers there, but fortunately for Robbo Sport hasn't gotten involved in it at all, and he still takes first place.
Yeah, Robbo made a really nice second phase to his start there and looks like he cleared everyone. Oh boy, settled down. John got the bad end of the stick for that one. Lunacy looks like he got punched a little bit wide. Where's Robbo gone? Robbo looks like he's had a bit of a spin. He's had a bit of a spin.
And he's got damage as well, and Robbo's gone into spot, and there's promotes It's Racing, the championship leader, into first place. So It's Racing was nowhere near it, and we see a lot of scattered cars there amongst the drivers there, but It's Racing is ahead of Captain Muffin. Rugworth is in third, Lunacy fourth, Budsy fifth. Then we have Calypso, or Devlin, in sixth place with Rusty Nuts in seventh, and we can see the pack of cars, that heavy wet is coming in thick and fast. And as we see Budsy gets a little bit shoved off there by Devlin there, as we see as well Bossy come through. But my goodness, the drivers are really struggling with these conditions, DJ.
Yeah, these drivers are really struggling. You got Lunacy up here, I think he was involved. It's Racing!
It's Racing is caught a puddle, and he has gone through, and he's got a massive mistake there. He doesn't want to get in people's way as he's trying to unghost, but It's Racing and John 27 and 9th and 11th place of the It's Racing drivers in the lower half of the points positioning, with Captain Muffin, the CP Motorsports Elite Breaker Mechanical sponsored, in first place. Rugworth for the MSR VL Racing in second place. Lunacy for Project One in third, and we see Rusty Nuts making a move on Devlin. Yes, he will take out fourth place, and Devlin in the top five. As we see a car ahead, Bossy goes for a full 360, and he's not able to keep that car under control there.
Yeah, this wet weather is really taking a toll on these drivers. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting end to this race when this track starts to dry up, as you can slowly start to see it drying up on that little weather meter. But John and Aussie having a good little battle here. Oh, John!
Oh, how did John not put that in the fence there? He was facing directly at that fence there. How did he not put it in there? I will never know. But that was very close there, as we see Lunacy making a move on Rugworth for third place. He's done that nicely, and Rugworth is demoted to third, and Lunacy up into second place. So again, this is another driver that we have to keep an eye on, as Rusty Nuts has promoted himself up into third. Rugworth had a bit of an incident, a bit of a tank slapper moment for him, as he gets shoved off a little bit by his teammate Rusty.
Damage to front aero and front right suspension, so it looks like he might have hit the wall or hit someone there, so it's a bit unfortunate. But Captain Muffin took those lollies and thought, thank you very much boys, I'm going to take this one. But yeah, it's going to be a fight against the weather for this one at the moment, so it's slowly starting to get a bit of a dry line as we jump on board here. You can see it's starting to get a little bit darker, so yeah, there's no more rain hanging around. So we'll definitely wait and see, but the rain is patchy, so I wonder if we might get a bit of a late spurt of rain. Oh, he goes really deep on the brakes into turn one there, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on whoever's down here in fourth, fifth, sixth, around that spot.
It's really congested amongst those drivers there. We see Budsy get taken off, gone full 360, and that's not what he wanted in his race. Then he gets demoted down to 13th, so the MSR boys in Bossy, Budsy and Xylon all demoted down from 11th to 14th, so not what we wanted to see. But fortunate enough for them, their teammate in Rugworth is holding on nicely in the top 8. But Robbo Sport, unfortunate for him, he was up in pole position, took the lead on turns 1 and 2. But unfortunately for him, he got himself a little bit of a mistake there and that paid dividends, and he lost himself at the end of turn 3. So very unlucky for Robbo Sport after what was a good qualifier.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Robbo, but I guess it's kind of put your head down and see how it goes. But we do also have some controversy here as well, coming from Race Control, saying that some cars may have jumped the checkered in qualifying and jumbled up the order. So I'm definitely going to have to chuck a bit of a review in for this one and wait and see. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. So I'm just checking the coverage right now, and I'll get back to you guys with this one.
No problems as we look towards that back end. So we see Robbo Sport and Zyla 96, the surprise of the qualifying, down there in the 12th and 13th place, but still leading away. It's Captain Muffin ahead of Lunacy. Rusty Nuts is in 3rd. It's Racing has moved up into 4th place, and I don't see... Oh no, never mind. I thought there was a driver that I was looking forward to seeing up there, but unfortunately not working out as we look through Griffo Tony's map there. So it is still wet and it's still patchy, DJ. So we see there's a lot of rain coming through. There's a bit of a heavy patch coming through right now. Griffo's got the traction ahead of Devlin. He'll move himself up into 6th, but will he take Rugworth and take out 5th place? Devlin, oh, contact! Oh, he closed the door on him. He had an overlap, and unfortunately he closed the door on Devlin Calypso, and Devlin just had nowhere to go there unless he could have just rolled off the throttle there. And Griffo Tony goes from a potential 5th place down to 13th, and that is very, very unfortunate for him and his chance to move through the field.
Yeah,
now we have.
Yeah, it was a bit of very unfortunate there for Griffo there, but yeah, Captain Muffin's really stretched out this lead. That's very, very nice there from him.
Absolutely, yeah, he's pulling the gap, and Lunacy is not really closing in as much as what we would anticipate with his pace, because it looks like Rusty Nuts actually catching Lunacy as well, and so is It's Racing. So even though Captain Muffin's pulling away, Rusty Nuts and It's Racing are closing in thick and fast for those drivers. If we look down the field, Bossy's made a move on Devlin and Aussie Hypnotic, so he's taken 2 positions away from those drivers, has moved himself up into 6th place. So a bit of a shaky start for him, as well as for the other MSR boys, but they're just finding their groove, and he's now found himself into 6th place, just behind his teammate in Rugworth in 5th.
Yeah, he's doing a solid job there with Rugworth and Bossy here in that mid pack, because we know that Rugworth hasn't had exactly the best run so far.
No, in the championship,
so far, so it's very unfortunate for him.
It's very like Rugworth. He always shows up to every race, whether he races in split 1 or split 2, as he's just had a bit of a hairy moment there through the Nicky Lauder curve in turn 1. But yeah, he's been a little bit inconsistent, but fortunate for him, he's actually, the consistency of scoring points has actually propelled him up into 4th place in the standings. So even though he's not hanging around in the podium contentions or the top 5, but this is a very interesting position for him to be in, as Vossi looks to make that move on Rugworth. Oh, Rugworth gets a little bit hairy there and just concedes position to Vossi to promote him into 5th place. But Rugworth, yeah, but he's in 4th place in the championship, DJ, so I don't know how he does it, but you can definitely tell in the championship consistency is key. And for Rugworth, he's moved up into 4th place, and it's helping him out massively to keep himself in split 1.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worked out well for him in regards to that. But I'm getting a bit of late news in here. There are 3 cars that did go through. One of those cars was Griffo. So he did post that lap after the checkered flag. So he copped the checkered flag, and they continued through. So one of those cars was Griffo. So that's a bit unfortunate there, but the stewards are ruling that they are. A
little bit of contact there between Devlin and Aussie Hypnotic, as I see a car go around. That is Xylon 96, so again caught up in all those mistakes there. This is definitely not the race that he's wanting to have. He was one of the fastest drivers in the wet. I know to be the fastest driver in the wet conditions, and very unfortunate for him, he's just dropped all the way just outside the top 10 behind Griffo, who will be serving himself a post-race penalty, or even so potentially a rear of the field start for race 2. But Shadow GT, a late call up after Slapper's mate 117 had his DQ for having the Type A wing rather than a standard wing on his car for pre-qualifying, and unfortunately gets devoted himself into split 2 with Shadow being the late substitute. No practice, no quali lap to set himself nicely. He was up in the top 8 at one moment, but unfortunately for him, he's just now back down to the 13th, but still leading the way, increasing his gap, DJ, by a huge amount. Captain Muffin runs a bit wide there, so I won't be surprised if he gets himself a penalty there, running too wide onto those curbings there. No, he's actually gotten away with it, but still ahead of Lunacy and Rusty Nuts in the top 3.
Yeah, it was a very nice running here from Muffin. I'm just curious on whether or not this weather may dry up a little bit here. Obviously, we don't have the access of the weather radar that we can get, but Robbo looks like he's letting Shadow go. He possibly got in a bit of contact there with Shadow, so very nice job there from Robbo by giving that position back up. So we don't like to see people getting penalties and stuff, so if you can give the position back after you do cause a driver to run off or something like that, we do highly advise you guys do that to avoid a harsher penalty. But yeah, it's pretty nice to see the drivers having somewhat of a clean race. I can't say it has been overly clean, but for Captain Muffin, it's definitely been very clean for him.
Yeah, absolutely, he's doing himself wonders there, so I don't think anyone's able to catch Captain Muffin unless they can do so in 7 laps time, and 7 laps time until the end of the checkered flag. But it looks like Lunacy, actually It's Racing, has made himself a move on Rusty Nuts, and he's promoted himself up into 3rd place. But it's a very close pack between It's, Rusty, Vossi, and even Rugworth's going to join in the back of this. John 27 TCT, we know he's not he's not one with these conditions and the wet conditions, but he's holding on nicely into 7th place there after getting really sent into turn 3, DJ. I don't know by who, but he got really sent into the gravel trap on the commencing of lap 1.
Yeah, it's lap 1 was a very hairy lap for a majority of the drivers, but yeah,
as lap 1 is in general, you know.
Yeah, and then you add some weather into the mix, and it just makes it even worse. But the wet weather, it's starting to really dry up now. It's got down to that first bar, so I'm wondering if drivers are keeping an eye on their weather radar, and we might see someone pit very shortly for some slicks, and wait and see. But yeah, definitely be an interesting one. But I am hearing.
Do we think it's worth it though? Do we think it's worth for the drivers to actually make a pit stop? Whether, you know, if you look at a guy like Griffo and Silent, maybe it could be a chance for them to pull in those lap times, because they pack up ahead exiting turn 1. They could potentially be up there if they throw on some slick tyres, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but see, the problem is we can't see the weather radar, so we don't know what the weather radar is like. We can see it with Lunacy, but I don't know if it might be a bit bugged here, but if they feel, you know, they might not have a bit of rain, they might be able to chuck some slicks on, cop a bit of time penalty. But the time difference between the slicks and the wets, but you got to also think of, if you do run offline, it is very wet, so you know, it's a bit of a roll the dice situation for that one.
Absolutely, yeah. Unfortunately for some of the drivers, maybe they take a risk, maybe they just want to just hang it out on the wet tyres or intermediates. So Captain Muffin's really pulling that gap, and now it's at 12 seconds, just over 12 seconds ahead of Lunacy. As we know, be a really wet weather master, but Captain Muffin's definitely showing his stride, and he's showing his colours that he's won with the wet conditions. We're on lap 9, about end of lap 8 for Lunacy, but about to start lap 9 for Lunacy. He's got It's Racing right behind, just over 2 seconds behind Lunacy in that Honda. So we've got ourselves a Honda Lexus Honda with the first of the Nissans in Rusty Nuts. Vossi in 5th place. Rugworth still holding on into 6th place very nicely, right behind his teammate. And then we have John and Aussie. Oh, look at this, DJ. We've got Aussie in the pit lane. He's the first of the pioneers here, so we'll have to keep an eye. Let's keep an eye on this pit stop. Let's see what he goes for. Looks like there are some slick tyres that I do see in the pit lane, DJ.
Yeah, some slick tyres possibly going onto this car. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on Aussie here, on what he goes out with. He has gone the softs. So it's going to be a very wet pit exit here. He may lose a little bit of time, obviously, because there is no grip, but once he gets onto that dry line and those tyres start to warm up, you'll see that time absolutely drop down.
Just needs to be careful on the pit exit line, which he doesn't cross, which is exactly what he needed. But just keep your head down, try and find the dry line. I think usually what they can do actually is they can use the chase cam. I think chase cam shows a really good example of where the dry line is. If we look maybe through Lunacy's chase cam, we might be able to see, or also see Shadow GT go for a full pirouette there, 360. So now we look through Aussie's chase cam, you can see there is a bit of a dry line forming, but they're still just tethering on that first bar, DJ. So he doesn't need to push it too much. He just needs to try and follow those lines, follow the line, and he'll be able to close up into towards Robbo Sport in no time.
Yeah, definitely. But I've just heard some late news from the stewards into our radio. Rugworth, Aussie Hypnotic, and Griffo Tony did proceed on another lap after the checkered flag was dropped. So they will be receiving a rear of grid penalty for race 2. So it's a bit unfortunate, but rules are rules, and they've got to follow them, unfortunately. But yeah, so they've obviously reviewed the footage of what we had. So it's definitely a bit unfortunate, but they know that rules are rules, and you've got one admin streaming, one commentating, and the other one's in the race. So it's pretty hard to get around us. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But look at that time there, 1.5 seconds. So he's pulled 5 seconds on Robbo in half a lap.
Yeah, but we need to keep an eye on the delta between him and Captain Muffin. Well, I think that's probably the more closer delta that we want to keep an eye on, but obviously he's closing up to Robbo for 12th place. Obviously it's for our drivers here just to try and make sure they keep their cars straight and then head into race 2, which will be pretty much damp and wet there, as John has actually made a move on Rugworth, so Rugworth loses a position to John 27 TCT. So one of the 3 drivers unfortunately going to be sent to the rear of the field, with Rugworth in 7th place, Griffo in 8th, and the other one, who was the other one? I do apologise.
It is Rugworth, Griffo, Tony, and Aussie Hypnotic.
Okay, so those 3 drivers unfortunately will be sent to the rear of the field there. And as we see, Rusty Nuts, he's come into the pit lane, so he's had enough of the wet tyres. He thinks it's time for dry, so he must have been getting some info from his crew chief saying that Aussie Hypnotic is fast and he's catching. And as we see Aussie Hypnotic there, the gap is still the same between him and Captain Muffin there, maybe getting a bit held up with the dirty air set that is created by Robbo Sport. So we'll have to wait and see. But he is on the soft tyres, Rusty Nuts, so he'll be one to keep an eye on, because he was actually in the top 4, DJ. So we'll be keeping an eye on to see what the guys ahead. But is it too late though? That's the thing. Like, there's only about 4 laps to go. Is it too late to change tyres?
Yeah, it's possibly that it is, and yeah, Aussie has lost a lot of time. He's actually gone slower than Captain Muffin has on the wet, so it's going to be a very interesting one here. So maybe that dirty air, sorry, because we know how bad that is in main series. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one here. Maybe he's not running the proper line, or I'm not overly sure what's happening, but he should be really hounding down the pace of Muffin there. But yeah, that's pretty unfortunate that he's not pulling in more time, which I thought he possibly would have.
Yeah, so I think he will make the move on Robbo Sport, and we've got to keep an eye on Rusty. So that bar has definitely gone down below. That the water percentage on the track has actually gone down below that first bar. So he'll be closing in on Budsy and Silent really rapid and really fast, as those guys are in their battle pack of their own. I think the battle pack for 8th place between himself, Budsy, and I see definitely Calypso with Griffo just ahead in 6th place. But John hanging on into the top 5 there. So a nice recovery drive for him, and he is on the battle pack. He's on the back of Vossi. So this is a very good run here for Vossi. So, you know, top 4 for Vossi would be a very good strong start for the Steel City MSR drive, and he's gone purple in that first sector. But I guess as a driver, DJ, if you're purple in sector 1, do you think you can really compose it and go throughout the whole section of the lap and get yourself the fastest lap?
There is obviously potential there. You know, you've gone purple through sector 1. It's telling you that you've done a faster sector than the fastest lap. So, if anything, it does give them a bit of confidence, but it could also give themselves, you know, they might put a bit of pressure on themselves. You know, oh, I've gone fastest through sector 1. You know, I've got to do it for the rest of the lap. But it's going to be pretty interesting. But we've got It's Racing, who's started to really close the gap to Lunacy. So maybe this might be a battle we need to keep an eye on. Going into
we'll keep an eye on that as we go. As we look to see on board with It's Racing and behind Lunacy, so we'll see how close they are amongst each other. So It's Racing looks like he's getting a little bit closer. towards this section of the track here, so still hanging around that 1.4 second gap between him and Lunacy, but he can still see him. Only 2 laps to go. Will It's Racing be able to get second place ahead of Lunacy? But we'll have to wait and see, because Captain Muffin is definitely running away. He's not making any mistakes at all. Keeps that car clean, and he'll be taking the victory this evening for the CP Motorsports entry. Lunacy in second for the Project One racing team, in with It's Racing in third place for the It's Racing Esports Honda. But we see Rusty Nuts has gone through and he's starting to make some progress. He's got the fastest lap here. He's going to make a move on Budsy 76. There is a bit of a dry line, and Budsy's going to make sure he gives him enough room. No, he doesn't. He's not going to be able to make himself any moves there. But Rusty Nuts has come through with the fastest lap. So the crossover point is now, but I think it is too little too late for our drivers to think about making a pit stop, because there's only one and a quarter laps to go.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too little too late there, but maybe Rusty might be able to pull a couple of positions here. But yeah, maybe the shorter lap might not be the play with the one stopper there, and just hang it out on wets and essentially run your wets on a dry line. Who's got a half a second here? We've got Griffo with a half a second there, but he's got no one really in contention to overtake him for that half second. So not too bad recovery there from Griffo after dropping all the way back after turn 1. But yeah, a bit unfortunate, grabbing some penalties and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting finish here, just to see who does pull off the second and third as I've just crossed the lap. And Muffin just goes faster through sector 1 here, so he's put his head down and he's definitely given him a show to say, you know what, boys, I'm coming around for enduros, watch out for me.
Absolutely, and we'll be seeing Captain Muffin in the enduro seat next week at High Speed Ring. The driver will be confirmed, but Captain Muffin is really putting himself in an example, really trying to go late on the brakes. As you see those discs glowing, it's so dark here at Red Bull Ring, and those brake discs are glowing, but still Lunacy is ahead of It's Racing, and It's Racing is not really closing in. He's closing in a little bit, but not enough to prevent Lunacy from making a mistake there. Oh, as he goes a little bit too, he goes very deep on the brakes there, and has that helped him with traction? It actually has, so he's actually managed to close that in one braking zone, DJ, so we'll keep an eye on that as we go towards the checkered flag as Captain Muffin comes through turns 9 and 10 for the final time. Hasn't looked back, no one's been able to put any threat on Captain Muffin 88 for the CP Motorsports driver negotiating Red Bull Mobile. Turn 10 for race 1 belongs to this CP Motorsports driver. It is Captain Muffin with the victory, and a great performance there as we look towards second place. Who's going to take second place? Will it be Lunacy? Will it be It's Racing? Lunacy looks like he's got the head into turn 9, just taking nice and easy through turns 10. And oh, he gets so drifty on the outside there, but he's losing traction. But he'll hold on into second place with It's Racing in third, and a bit of a nice fourth place for Vossi, and Rugworth has moved himself up into fifth place. So a mistake from John 27 TCT has promoted Rugworth back into fifth, and John in sixth place. Griffo Tony recovers into seventh place after taking pole position there. So very nice solid position from Griffo, but unfortunately for him will be a rear of the field for him. As we see Rusty Nuts, that gamble did not work for Rusty, DJ, and he finds himself outside of the top 10.
Yeah, I do think Rusty made a mistake, because I did see him up in 6th place or 7th place, so it looks like he possibly made a bit of a mistake. As you see, Aussie went through with a 126.2 and Rusty done a 142.6, so he did lose 20 seconds, so he possibly ran just offline. And yeah, something happened there, but yeah, Zalon unfortunately coming through here for 12th place, just rolling over the line. Maybe his pedals might have mucked up on him or something, and Robbo coming through in 13th and Shadow in 14th. So lap down for Shadow, but obviously it was a little bit of a late call up. So yeah, I guess not bad showing, because I do think it's the first time we've seen Shadow in the main TS2 splits.
No, actually the last one was at the Spark last weekend. He did make his debut appearance in top split, so it's his second time out. Obviously got very lucky with the DQ or disqualification from Slapper's mate 117 in using the bigger rear wing compared to the rear wing that he should be running, which is the standard wing that Captain Muffin is displaying for us in his EBM Honda. But it is a dominant victory for Captain Muffin, 88, Lunacy and It's Racing rounding up the podium. So we've got a Honda, Lexus Honda. We don't see the fastest Nissan looks to be John 27 TCT in 6th place there. So a driver that's not really one with the wet weather, is trying to make himself, he's trying to get himself head around it so he can get himself ready for main series later on this evening. But that's, I will say, for a team boss for myself, Vossi and Rugworth in 4th and 5th, that was a really good showing for my boys there, with Griffo and Devlin in the 8th position there as well. So very good job for the Belgian driver. So a little bit far away from his hometown, Red Austria, compared to Belgium. So a bit of a journey for him. So it's been a nice bit of a train ride from Belgium to Austria, with Buzzy in 9th and Aussie Hypnotic in 10th place. So as we get ourselves crossing the line, I do believe the hold-up is because of Shadow in the pit lane.
Yep.
As we did see Rusty, Xylon, and Robbo rounding up the rear of the field. But no one can touch this man, DJ. He has been showing some really good performances as of late, and he will one to keep an eye on for the main series in the Enduros coming up very shortly and next week at High Speed Ring. But Captain Muffin does take victory for race 1 here at Trackstars TS2 Touring Cars for round 5 of the Styrian Sprint. So well done for those drivers. As we do take a break, with that we have Captain, Lunacy, and It's Racing on the podium. So congratulations to those 3 drivers. And as we get ourselves ready for race 2, we'll be back with you guys very shortly.
Alright, now welcome everyone back to. We've had a short little break, had a bit of a code 20 break and grab another drink. But Race Control has served the penalty to Griffo, Tony, Aussie Hypnotic and Rugworth. So unfortunately they won't take part in Q2, so they will have to stay in the pit lane for the duration. And then I'll tell them when they can proceed to turn 3. So it's a bit unfortunate, but rules are rules. Yeah, we do what we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately for those guys, once you do cross the checkered flag and you do go for one more lap, obviously we don't have the qualifying format, which allowed us in GT Sport and even in the FIA's nations and manufacturers, you have yourself a qualifying setting. But unfortunately for open lobbies, we don't have that feature. But there is an update coming in on Thursday, so we'll keep an eye out if there's going to be a qualifying format for open lobbies. So that way league racers can do a proper qualifying session without getting people caught out on guard. But as we get ready for Q2, as we see our drivers here, we've got Rugworth, who's not supposed to be out. Keep an eye on him, so we've got to keep an eye on Rugworth. I believe Aussie Hypnotic and Griffo Tony as well. I don't think he's ticked in as well. So.
I think he's just ticked in. Yep, so he's just ticked in. So Shadow looks like he might not be opting to qualify, so he might be wanting to start from the back.
So we'll wait and see what the strategy with Shadow is. He did do it. He did have an early DNF with his first race. So for him,
look at that weather. I don't know how accurate that is, but there's yellow patches.
Oh, yellow means it's going to be super heavy. And these drivers are going to be really caught off guard with the breeze coming in. But Rusty Nuts is going to be the first driver to come through. Actually, no, it'll be John will be one of the first drivers to come through to start his first flying lap here. As we see that rain really kicking down and really kicking in. And for him, it's going to be strap seatbelts and have a bit of a go. Have a go, son. Get yourself in pole position. So we go through turn 1 through Nicky Lauder curve. How early does he go? Yeah, he goes quite early there, makes the apex, runs the car wide, gets a little bit twitchy. You can see the handwork coming from John 27 TCT's Nissan GTR, and then coming through here, just my goodness, you can hear the rain coming from the windscreen. It is pouring down, DJ.
Yeah, it is a very heavy rainfall at the moment. But jumping into the YouTube chat, we've got Sirik in, so we haven't seen Sirik around. He's just focusing on some live things with work and his newborn. So hope all is well, mate, and we hope to see you around soon. But yeah, mate, we have changed the format for the qualifying. So obviously, without being able to qualify as such, and we can't set the grids either, we changed the format to running 2 5-minute qualifying sessions before. One 5-minute qualifier before each race. So it's definitely spiced things up a little bit, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a few drivers make some surprises with one part of qualifying not going their way, but then the second part they just show their true colours and they get themselves up higher in the grid. But let's look towards John as he's the first of the drivers to come through. Captain Muffin really trying to squirm that car through. He's not able to get any traction with his Honda NSX. But John is going to come through towards turn 9 and 10 to complete his first lap of Q2 of qualifying for race 2 of round 5 TS2 Touring Car Championship. As he comes through, he's going to set himself a 1:41.1, so that's a good decent time for John, with Captain Muffin only getting himself 1:41, actually no, 1:42 I believe he set that time. And it's racing in 3rd place. There you go. So a few drivers are not able to come through. What about Cylon? He is really good in these wet conditions. Can he just blossom himself up? No, he goes into 5th place. So he's going to have one more lap. These drivers will have one more lap to complete their qualifying runs. Lunacy as high up as 6th place, so not enough for Lunacy to come through. As Budsy promotes himself up into 8th, Devlin in 9th, and then Bossy inside the top 10 as we get themselves ready to go till the end of qualifying. So the drivers will be coming through 50-second call. John 27 TCT won't be able to get a lap in as I look through his delta. He's not going to be able to get one more lap in, so that'll be it for John 27 TCT. So he's the last of the drivers. So the last car on the grid there will be taking good use of those track conditions, trying to make it really dry and try and find that dry line as possible, as early as possible. Sorry, not early as possible. Trying to get that dry line with following the tracks of the cars there, but it is pouring down, DJ. There's no dry line coming in whatsoever.
Yeah, it is very wet. It's actually gone into the blue. So into that third bar. It's actually into that one, which means it is very wet. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know about you, but I don't think I want to go down and shoot into my race suit to get in the car.
Oh, John runs through quite. Oh, Captain Muffin's just trying to go through full 360, and John comes through to the checkered flag. He won't be able to complete his lap, but Captain Muffin, so far, provisional pole position, goes to Captain Muffin. So the winner of race 1 comes through to get his qualifying done in race 2 and gets himself provisional pole. It's Racing still hangs on into 3rd place. Rusty Nuts in 4th. Silo moves himself up into 5th. Lunacy has come through into... Actually, no, Silence moved up into 2nd place, DJ. So he's come through and put himself a very good lap time there. So Captain Muffin, Silo 96, and John 27 TCT rounds up your top 3 with It's Racing. Just missing out, and Budsy 76 has come through, and Vossi as well. So Vossi and Budsy, the 2 Steel City MSR cars, come through 5th and 6th place. Oh, sorry, 4th and 5th. Have just demoted It's Racing down outside the top 5.
Yeah, believe it or not, John and Muffin made the checkered. They got past just. So It's Racing was... Sorry, Rusty actually got through as well. So It's Racing is the first car that did get the checkered flag. So we've got Captain Muffin and Rusty Nuts running one more lap. I did keep a quick eye on that one just to see who got the checkered and who didn't. So
absolutely. So Rusty Nuts will be coming. We'll try to make sure he gets the best of the conditions here, but Captain Muffin comes through. I didn't get to see what his lap time was in Sector 1. He runs a bit too wide there, and he's gone onto the curb, and he's gone full 360. He's caught himself a puddle there. Rusty's going to be very careful as we see what kind of lap time Rusty can do as he's coming through turns 9 and 10. He's got the best of the conditions here. He's got clear air, clear track, and coming through turns 9 and turns 10, we'll wait and see if he can improve his lap time. At 1 minute 41 is his lap time, but he needs to get himself into the 1 minute 39 to challenge pole position. Don't think it's going to be a 39, but does this improve his position on the grid? No, it doesn't. So that's the end of qualifying for him. Rusty now stays in 7th position, but so far, DJ, you're the man in the CP Motorsports Honda. Captain Muffin will be taking pole position after taking a commanding victory in race 1. Can he do it for race 2?
That is the question. It'll definitely be an interesting one to see. So we are just giving these 3 guys that were excluded from qualifying the go ahead to go into up to turn 3. So the other thing is, with these guys not qualifying, they're going to be on a little bit of a back step for me, to be honest. I think obviously not having any running. So
I think it might be beneficial for them, because if they're going to be towards the back and they're going to see all the chaos ahead of them, what I would do is I'd really just try and back off the throttle and just not make any challenges at all for the top for those top positions. I would really just make sure, just keep myself calm and just make sure I'm at the rear of the field and making sure that these guys are able to, you know, make a bit of a mess up front, and then you just capitalize and get yourself in the top 5 or even the top 3.
Yeah,
but as we are having a bit of a wet start here, it is confirmed that we are having a bit of a delayed start for the main series. Yeah, unfortunately there's a bit of a delayed start for our drivers in the main series, but if someone's on the stream and someone's able to open up a lobby, that would be absolutely brilliant, and we'll be able to get ourselves hopefully running on time for qualifying for the main series. But we are not focused on main series. It is TS2 DJ with Captain Muffin and Cylon sharing the front row. John 27 and his teammate John and Vossi in 4th. Budsy and It's Racing is in 6th place. Rusty and Lunacy. So that's a surprise from Lunacy to be down there in 8th place. But let's wait and see what he can do as those 5 red lights are about to go out. It is lights out, green flag racing, and it's going to be a nice solid start there for Captain Muffin. He's got himself the jump over Cylon 96 there. It's Racing got himself a better start and is going for an inside move. It's going to be 4 wide going into turn 1, and all these guys need to be very careful there as we see Buzzy have a bit of contact, and John's gone spinning around again. So that's another position. That's another moment that he's had going offline and off circuit. So John 27 TCT goes from first to last, and looks like we see Robo Sport also going for a 360 with a bit of engine damage as well. But we see Captain Muffin and It's Racing has made the move on Xylon 96, so Xylon's moved himself up into third place and down into third place. We see Budsy 76 get a bit of a tap there on the exit of turn 3. So still a bit of a chaotic start there, but the one driver avoiding the chaos, DJ, is Captain Muffin.
Yeah, I think it was Captain Muffin and It's Racing in that regard too. So It's Racing made a blinder of a start up the inside. That was incredible. He made that Honda really grip and make that move. And I do think, as you said, it was 4 wide at one point, so he was lucky to pay off. But I think Xylon got a bit of a nudge from behind. It was a bit of a cleaner start, so I don't know how they had a bit of a cleaner start in a lot wet weather conditions. So it's a bit confusing, but you know, it kind of is what it is. But yeah, not too bad of a start there from Muffin and It. So we'll see if It can bridge that gap there to Muffin, as long as he doesn't have Xylon hunting him, because we do know that Xylon's had a really rough run at the moment in his TS2 campaign compared to last year. So it's definitely going to be
he's making a move on It's Racing. He's got the traction, he's got the grip there. So the Honda does take a little while to find traction with the MR car, but Xylon's got that position back, and he will take second place ahead of It's Racing. We've got Bossy up into fourth place as well, so putting on another commanding performance, going back to back so far to keep fourth place ahead of Rusty Nuts. Aussie Hypnotic there, DJ, so from the rear of the field, and Rugworth as well. So these guys have come from the rear and they're up into 6th and 7th place. So like I said, DJ, obviously qualifying can be one thing, but if you play your cards right, you'll be able to move up. And like I predicted, Aussie and Rugworth inside the top 7.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting one there, but John as well, he started to kind of put his head down and buckle up those seatbelts tight. But another thing as well, we've got John down here in 12th place. He's going to be jumping out of a Nissan and into a Honda. So unfortunately, we're not going to have EBM Brandosa in my sister car. So we're going to have John jumping in. So he's going to possibly feel like it's going to be a bit of a different handling. He runs really deep under there. But hey John, you need to go back and pick up the Apex, mate. There's an Apex back there that you need to hit. So, oh, Shadow. Looks like you're going to
Shadow could make a little bit of a mistake there, but it just keeps itself ahead. But I will say, DJ, running off the line here, instead of running the racing line, as you see, It's Racing takes back second place. So it's a nice little battle pack between It's and Xylon 96. But I think if you don't really take the racing line in the wet, it may help you. You know, you might find some better grip around the outside rather than taking that normal inside line. As we see, It's Racing just avoiding the curves there. Same with Xylon 96. So it's it is some. You can get some interesting racing lines in the wet conditions, because maybe the optimal line, hugging the inside curving and running onto the exit curve is not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a better thing to do, but also couldn't, because there are puddles that are off racing line, because obviously having the cars come through, they move the water off the track. What's he got himself a half-second penalty, so he's had a bit of a corner cut. But yeah, as I said, it can running offline may be a blessing, but also maybe a curse, because you might hit a puddle, or you might get a gust of wind, or something may happen, and it may come back to bite you. But you know, you can't really do anything if you don't take risks, right?
No, that's right. I mean, through the practice sessions I've done with my guys, we've been trying to run some alternate lines around the track. As we see, there are a lot of puddles on the curbing, as we see Aussie Hypnotic just run a little bit too deep there. And I don't see Rugworth there. Looks like Rugworth made a mistake on the previous lap, and he's down outside in the top 10 in 11th place. So a bit of a mistake for him on his second lap there, and unfortunately for him, drops him down to 11th place, with Rugworth, Shadow and Buzzy and Robo Sport rounding up the rear of the field, but still leading the way, DJ. We can't keep our eyes off him. Captain Muffin 88 just pulling away, and he's extending that gap yet again, and It's Racing is nowhere near able to catch up to him.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a solid job. Looks like we've had a bit of a dropout here, so Robbo, possibly?
I believe that is Robbo, yeah. Robert's had a bit of a disconnect there. The DC from this race was looking good. Obviously, provisional pole position, as we will say. Unfortunately for Griffo not getting that pole position after being excluded from qualifying. Well, at least we'll have that in his mind that he is pretty fast in the wet. And yeah, for him to do really well, and then I think he got himself in a bit of a mess up in that opening lap in race 2, so that's demoted him to the rear. And John Silent 96 again is ahead of Nis Racing, so he'll take second place ahead of Nis Racing. This is going to be a nice battle pack between him. See down there as well, Rusty and Vossi are going to be having a nice battle pack together with Aussie Hypnotic and Lunacy right behind. And even John 27 TCT, he's going to be catching up very soon, and he might be able to get himself onto the back of the pack for the battle for 4th place.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting end of the race, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens towards the end. But John's probably about 6 or 7 tenths off Lunacy here, so maybe John's starting to get his head. And as I say, oh my lord!
What is that?
Maybe a lag? That looks like
a
lag.
I thought people went off there. Well, that gave me a fright as well. Like, I see John off, I see Declan off, I see Rugwell off. Man, DJ, your net's giving me a heart attack, mate.
Not my net, mate. It's Racing's net. He's the host. But yeah, that gave me a heart attack as I thought that Devlin just got sent by Rugworth. But as I say that,
yellow flags. That is for Vossi. So he's gone spinning around. He's picked himself some engine damage, looking like to be making a bit of a battle pack with him and Rusty Nut. So that's very unlucky for Vossi. He had himself a very good result in that opening race to finish 4th place, but he's now just outside the top 10 with engine damage behind his teammates in Shadow and Rugworth. But we still want to keep our eyes, or Rugworth's looking to make a move. Oh, never mind, that's alright. Xylo 96 has definitely pulled away from It's Racing, so It's Racing looks like he's made a bit of a mistake somewhere, and Xylo's just put the hammer down and he's gone through. So this is exactly where we want to see Xylo 96 DJ. We know him to be a very fast driver. He loves the wet conditions. He's been telling me all week long that he's been looking forward to the Red Bull Ring and the wet conditions, because this is where he actually took his his first pole position in TS2 last year back at the Red Bull Ring. So he did himself a really good job, him and Little Blacko, having a bit of a battle pack in 2021 at this track here. And it was a little bit unfortunate to not pick up the victory on that race, but now we might be able to see a charge for Xylo 96, maybe potentially closing that gap to Captain Muffin.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to wait and see how the Lexus performs in this kind of weather compared to the Honda. So the Honda looks a little bit weaker through the corner, like the mid-corner speed, but on entry, like corner entry and corner exit, looks a little bit stronger. So it's definitely going to be interesting. And also, I think as well, we may have had a late exit for Loudy Darkness as well. So I think
runs a bit wide there, so sorry about that. Yes, you are correct there. So Loudy Darkness has unfortunately had to pull out of the main series. I think it's a bit of a, I think it might be a bit of a banter joke, DJ. I think unfortunately he just doesn't like tuning, doesn't like the wet weather.
Yes and no. I mean, maybe or a lot of people, because another thing as well, we don't have our current championship leader in either. So Speedy Tyres in Red One, they're currently not in their cars for the next race. So it looks like Speedy Tyres is going to lose his championship lead. He
will lose his championship lead to looks like it might be towards yourself, Ratty, and Diswood and Jerem 50 as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as that ladder, as we look at the live ladders for that towards the end of the main split. But is that gap closing between Captain, or is it looking stable amongst those two?
I think it's looking stable, if not Buffett's opened it up a little bit.
That's alright. So we've got It's Racing still keeping himself steady in 3rd place, so he'll be doing a really good job to try and consolidate 3rd place, and he might be able to take the round victory if he keeps 3rd place. But actually no, we've got Captain Muffin. I do apologise. He did take the first race, so Captain Muffin looks like if he keeps that, he'll definitely take the round win. It's Racing may be able to hold on into 2nd place. We would have had Vossi maybe up into 2nd or 3rd had he kept his position, but unfortunately for him, he's just down the order outside the top 10. But looking down, Aussie Hypnotic in the top 5 after starting in the rear of the field, so that's a very good recovery drive for Aussie Hypnotic, and he's going to be really making a move towards towards Rusty Nuts in 4th place. John has recovered after having that first lap spin out on turn 1 into 7th place, and Rugworth inside the top 8, with Devlin in 9th place, and Vossi just holding on into 10th place with Shadow and Budsy 11th and 12th. Griffo looks like he's made a bit of a mistake in one of his laps there. We'll see lap 4, yep, 147. And it's the last of the runners with RoboSport DNFing.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate there from Robbo. I wonder if he's left the lobby. No, he's staying in the lobby, so maybe he might just be watching. So it's definitely unfortunate there for Robbo to get that DNF. But I guess he might have had a bit of a bad race there and thought, nah, I can't get this race back. I might as well just not stress it out and just watch these guys go. So definitely unfortunate that one there for Robbo. But looks like it's racing's dropping off the pace a little bit here. So he's.
Yes, dropped a little bit. He's losing time to Rusty, but as I see, Aussie Hypnotic and Lunacy are actually having a battle for 5th place. So they're trying to close up towards Rusty, but they're not able to close up if they're battling too much. So Aussie's holding on to 5th place, and this will be a remarkable comeback for Aussie Hypnotic if he keeps 5th place at the end of this, with him in 5th, Lunacy in 6th place. So John 27 TCT, as we saw in the variable conditions at Spa, DJ, he made a strategic call that worked perfectly to take that first race, but unfortunately that second race for him in the proper wet conditions at the start didn't really help his cause to sealing out the round victory.
No, definitely. That race one at Spa still surprises me to this day on that move that he did. Same as Woodsy as well. He did the same thing in main series too. So he made that 1 lap extra call, and it gave him, I think it was 15 seconds on myself and Raddy. So definitely paid dividends for him. But he was probably about 15 seconds ahead of us already, and we wouldn't have made that next lap. So it's just amazing how much a 1 lap difference can do around the circuit by either running one more longer or pitting 1 lap short, 1 lap earlier. So it's definitely a bit of an interesting one. But so far, Xylon and Muffin here are keeping themselves at bay. They are running roughly very close to times to each other. So
absolutely, he has just picked up a 1 second penalty for maybe running wide on turn 1. So he'll be losing a little bit of time that he was trying to gain back on Captain Muffin, but it's a much better performance for Xylon 96, where we want to see from the front. It's racing. Still holding on to 3rd place. Rusty Nuts doesn't look like he's able to close up enough, but it's a very good start. It's a very good position for Rusty Nuts, as he will possibly could be making a sub return for the RoboSport Racing Camp. Aussie Hypnotic still holding on to 5th place. Lunacy, goes a bit too deep. Nearly took out Aussie Hypnotic there at the end of turn 4 there. How did he not take him out? Those brakes on the Lexus have worked wonders for him. Locked rears and all. But he managed to hold on very nicely. John is still not able to close in, but he's just waiting his time to maybe wait for a collision, maybe between Aussie and Lunacy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of an interesting one for how the end of the race is going to be.
Absolutely, can't wait to see as Lunacy looks to make the move on Aussie Hypnotic. He makes the move into turn 9, makes that stick. Will Aussie go for a cutback? Oh, contact made between, looks like there may have been contact between Aussie and Lunacy. We're not too sure here, as we might want to look back on the race replay at the end of this race too. But it looked like contact was made between Lunacy and Aussie Hypnotic there. Like I did call it, DJ. If contact was made amongst those two, look where John is. He is going to be pouncing. He's going to be ready. He'll take that 5th place if he needs to.
Yeah, looks like Aussie grabbed up some front aero damage and Lunacy got some rear. So my guess, front damage on one car, rear damage on another car. One car hit another car, and I think Aussie may have run a little bit deep on the brakes there and did hit Lunacy. So a bit unfortunate, but he did obviously lose. Oh, John!
Oh no, John has gone around full 360 and he's picked himself some engine damage, and that's going to be his race over, and that promotes Rugworth back into 7th place, and maybe Vossi will be able to come through. He does. He'll take 8th place away from John 27 TCT. Devlin may potentially grab John as we wait to see what the result is. But look up the front, DJ. Xylon 96 has lost 2nd place to It's Racing, and he's made a mistake somewhere on this lap, I believe, and he's dropped back from 2nd. He's in the clutches of Rusty Nuts.
Yeah, it's never good to be in the clutches of some Rusty Nuts there, but it's it's a bit like Ratty McForehead's name, isn't it? It's definitely one that makes our life either interesting or a bit of a pain being a commentator. But yeah, very unfortunate there for Zylan. We'll wait and see what that time is here.
1 minute 54.
154. So compared to 141, so he's lost about 13 seconds worth of time there.
So he's definitely made a mistake. I don't know whether it's in that first section or the last section, but I just noticed on the leaderboard the position changed, and I thought, well, something happened to Zylan 96, and we saw it. We just caught it at the end of it. But he's not. He is closing on It's Racing, so we might see that battle pack in raging. But what is that gap between Captain and It's Racing? Is that over 14? Is that 14 seconds? Is it?
That is 24 seconds. So it's 24 seconds.
Wow.
So you can see Muffin's coming through this section of the track, and It's Racing is coming down to the corner now. So he's got a pretty considerable gap. So It's Racing is doing about 141s and Muffin is doing 39. So he's probably about 2 seconds a lap faster than It's Racing. So maybe It's might be taking it a little bit careful there in the number 95.
Well, he is the championship leader, so he doesn't want to take any measures on getting the car to be stepping out on him or losing position in the championship. But he's only going to be around for the first 10 rounds. DJ, and so he may not be in contention of the championship, so he might have to try and help out his teammate Ian John to try and propel him up towards the front of the championship. But for him to be in second place and keeping himself a good clean round, that's a very good solid positioning for It's Racing in the 95, stepping back from the main series where he retired in 2021 for full-time racing in the main series, and he's demoted himself to have a bit of a casual fun, bit of a break from Gran Turismo and just having that little bit of fun throughout the week where you get some awesome racing amongst the TS2 field, and then later on we'll be doing some racing with the TS3 boys, so it'll be very interesting to see how he compares himself with the likes of Rick Reed and Meat and Cheese Pie. But as we look through the field, John has only dropped down to 9th place, so that's not a bad loss for John. So he was up into 6th place, nearly up into 5th place, but down to 9th place won't hurt him as much. But maybe in the championship standings between him and Rusty Nuts, it may close.
Yeah, maybe that gap may drop down between those two, but especially in the championship as well. Like, you've got It's Racing here, and as I say that, Zylan's made that pass on It's there, but It's isn't battling Zylan or Muffin for the championship, so he doesn't need to stress too much.
So going into this race, It's Racing is only 3 points ahead of John 27 TCT, and then we have the two WRT boys, Nightwalker and Soul Reaper, have been just recently promoted to the main series, and the next challenger is Rusty Nuts on 837. So there's a bit of a gap between him and John 27 TCT in 2nd place. So a little bit of work for Rusty Nuts to do to try and catch up towards him, but a 4th place finishing here will be a really good start.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very good start from Rusty. So it's pretty. Maybe it might give him a bit more confidence as well for when he does fill in for the main series, or if he is a reserve co-driver. Because I don't exactly know. I haven't looked at myself because I've had a lot of other things. I knew the co-drivers are 100% for each team, but yeah, he's definitely showing like he's proving himself in TS2 here. So pretty good showing, as well as Aussie. Pretty good recovery here from starting at the back, and he's got Lunacy hounding him at the moment.
Yeah, well, these guys have been they've been through the wars of race 2 with Aussie Hypnotic just keeping ahead of Lunacy. So Lunacy's not able to find a pass on Aussie Hypnotic for 5th place. So it's a bit of a surprise for Lunacy, don't you think, DJ? We expect some high hopes for Lunacy to be not in this position for wet weather racing. We usually see him up towards the front there, but to be down and outside the top 5 is a bit of a surprise for us in our predictions on Lunacy.
Yeah, I did think he got a little bit involved there with that turn 1, lap 1 issue, but I guess there's not really much else you can do in that regard. He's getting really squirmy there, and just try and get a bit of a drive back to the field and see what best you can do. So maybe the really heavy wet weather is playing a lot of havoc on him.
Yeah, just maybe not able to get these cars conditions condition to the weather and the track surface for Lunacy. He did have a good showing in the very heavy part and the heavy wet part of the race at Spa, but unfortunately, as this is quite consistent raining and it's still pelting down, DJ, I don't know how, but thankfully we had a little bit of a break with the rain, but it's just coming down. It's coming down. Is the track going to be flooded for main series? It's going to be interesting.
I hope not, because I don't want to get my canoe out. I'll tell you that much. I know I called the Honda a boat, but I don't want it to actually be a boat. But I'm hoping that the rain eases off a little bit for our races. But I think we've got 29 or 28 laps around here, so it's going to be a very long evening for us, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So for us to be getting ourselves ready for 29 laps, these guys are lucky to be doing 14 laps this evening. So these guys are doing a really good job to keep themselves in the positions that they are, with Captain Muffin really pulling the gap, and he's really extending it over Cylon 96. So what Cylon thought he lost second place is now just been able to regain that. And yeah, he's definitely pulled away from its racing. So the better driver in Cylon in the wet conditions compared to its racing has just pulled away. And with Rusty Nuts in 4th, Aussie Hypnotic still holding on to 5th place, Lunacy in 6th, Vossi after a spin on turn 8 and getting himself engine damage. As I saw Lunacy just lose the back end there. He's still able to hold on there to keep 6th place, with Vossi in 7th. John, a nice little recovery drive for him, trying to be on the back of Vossi in 8th place. Rugworth and Budsy rounding up the top 10, with the driver in 11th place going to be... No, because DJ.
Sorry, I was just daydreaming at the at the cars there. I was in my own world, but yes.
So Devlin in 11th, and Griffo in 12th, and Shadow in 13th. So Shadow not qualifying as well as Griffo, but unfortunately for Griffo, not able to get his head around the track, especially in these very damp conditions. So Shadow looks to make a move on the outside of Griffo Tonus. We see Budsy 76 lose the position to Devlin, so Budsy not having the best run for him this evening at the wet Red Bull ring. But cutting back to the front of the field as we look towards those guys at the end of the session. Again, DJ, Captain Muffin, 2 races in a row. Can anyone stop him? He's 10th in the championship. Can he possibly pull his way through and maybe make a late comeback and a challenge for John 27 TCT in this TS2 Championship?
I think there's potential there. Looking at the standings now, John's on 990 and Muffin's on 785, so he's about 205 points away from him, and each race win is 150 for your sprint race, and your long races are 300. So it's definitely a very interesting one. But big congratulations to Captain Muffin taking the checkered flag here, and Cylon's made another bit of a mistake here. He's closed that gap down.
Made another mistake, but he's just got to keep those last 2 corners around, and that'll be his best result, DJ, for the season. I mean, it's very weird for me to be saying that Cylon's going to get his best race result, and we're already into round 5 of the championship, race 10 of the championship. Actually, race 9, sorry, because we had the one race at Blue Moon Bay. So race 9, and he's getting his best position with Cylon in 2nd place. It's Racing takes out 3rd. Rusty, a nice, solid, consistent race to be in 4th. And Aussie, Hypnotic and Lunacy. Let's come back to the coverage here between Aussie. And it looks like he's made the move. Lunacy was up into 5th place, and Aussie has come through and stolen 5th place ahead of Lunacy. Yes, I did catch the replay on a delay there. He did make a move, Lunacy, at the back end of the field. And for Aussie to make a move, I think on the 2nd last corner, DJ, and he reclaims 5th place. So an excellent result there for Aussie Hypnotic to take 5th place after being disqualified from qualifying. Rugworth, keep it steady, mate, you're on your last lap. He managed just to hold on into the top 8 with Vossi in 7th. John 27 TCT picks up a half-second penalty, with Devlin rounding up the top 10. Griffo Tony hanging on into 11th place. Shadow GT 007 in 12th place, and then Budsy 76 all the way down the back of the field. It looks like he's had a bit of a spin there, had a bit of a moment. And that is his race over and done with. He's not making any moves, DJ, so he may be having some throttle issues on his end there, because he looks like he's drifting back. But unfortunately, with the DNF coming from Robo Sport Racing, that is our top 14, and the one man that they can't catch in the wet conditions belongs to Captain Muffin. Congratulations to the CP Motorsports driver. Wow, DJ, he's a man on form.
Yeah, he's definitely a driver on form and probably one to watch out for coming
Well, he
towards
took
the end of the season as well.
Yeah, he did take victory in the first two races at Dragon Trail Seaside as well, don't forget. So this is actually his fourth win this season in the main series, in the TS2 main series. So it'll be one to keep an eye on. He is a Daytona 500 winner, official Daytona 500 winner, and he's got four race victories amongst his name in TS2. Mate, that's a good resume.
Oh, certainly, it's definitely a good resume, and having that 500 win on your resume as well, I know how that feels. But yeah, it's definitely a driver that kind of came out of the dark. He wasn't around for last season. And he jumped into Track Stars this season. He's definitely put on a showing, saying, "Look at me, I'm jumping in here. I'm showing what I'm capable of." So it's good to see him. Good to see him around with the other boys.
Absolutely right, and we can't wait to see what those drivers can do next time out for at the high speed ring. Because we go enduro racing, but before then we get to do some TS2 racing on the Saturday at high speed ring. So stay tuned for the coverage for Trackstars TS2 touring cars. But that is it for those boys. Big congratulations to Captain Muff for taking the clean sweep and the double victory for Trackstars for round 5. We cannot wait to see what he can do next Saturday in TS2, and then Sunday for the big race for the high speed ring 500. But if that leaves us now for TS2, we're on to the main series. So on behalf of DJ and myself and Spud P666, we'll see you guys next Saturday for TS3 and TS2. But stay tuned for It's Racing, bringing you all the live coverage